And this is my second time up here on this landmark panel, and I'm very happy to be back in Israel. I love the technologies and the excitement and innovation that I'm seeing here. So I'm very happy to be moderating this terrific panel on publishing and content. And what I told these guys before we came up here was that I want to generate a little bit of controversy on the panel. It makes it a lot of fun, and I've encouraged them to interrupt each other and be somewhat controversial and keep it interesting. Okay? So to start with this, and this is nothing too controversial and there shouldn't be any interruptions, just introduce yourself and talk a little bit about the company that you're coming from and how it relates to the publishing and content field.
Should I start? Okay, first I know Laurie because we meet at board meetings all the time in New York.
Which is why he's sitting so far away from me.
Exactly. I know you. So, no, just kidding. So I'm Cete. I'm heading Bertelsmann's Corporate Venture Capital Fund, which is a $170 million early stage VC fund, behaving like a financial VC. So not really much different than my colleagues on the right. We invest in A/B rounds, typically $1 to $3 million, but that's not the reason why I was invited here, I'm sure. I think the reason why I was invited is because of the parent company, the one LP we have, which is Bertelsmann, a big media company that owns the RTL Group, which is Europe's largest TV broadcaster and content producer with its Fremantle unit. So I'm sure you all know the shows like American Idol and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, things like that. And they also own Random House, which is the largest consumer book publisher in the world, and Gruner & Jahr, which is the largest magazine publisher in the world. So this is the disclaimer now. So I'm in the VC unit, so I'm more of a VC. I know a little bit about the other stuff, but I'm not speaking for them. So this is not the official Bertelsmann.
All right, disclaimer noted, of course. Eran.
Okay, my name is Eran Davidson. I'm Israeli. I've been living in Berlin since 7 years ago for a very strange reason. I got a phone call from Shai Agassi. For me, he was a big hero. At that time, I didn't know him, but apparently he called me. He told me, there is a guy called Hasso Plattner. He lives in Germany. He wants you to start a fund for him. And my first reaction was, Hasso, who? I didn't know who the hell is Hasso Plattner. Do you, by the way? Anybody know? Who is Hasso Plattner? You do? Only one person? 2 people? That's 3, 4. Okay. Does anybody know a company called SAP? Please raise your hand.
Making sure that there's an audience out there.
I thought you know the company.
This is the media panel, that's why.
Okay.
They don't know SAP.
So what am I doing here? Hasso Plattner is the founder of SAP. Do you know that he's number 49 richest person in the world? He has 10 billion euro according to Forbes. Anyway, he's the guy that asked me to come over to Germany and start a new fund for him in order to encourage entrepreneurship in Germany. Why me? I don't know, but that's what he asked me to do. It was 7 years ago, and since then, I've managed to raise about 200 million euro from him and from other investors, including this Shai Agassi that brought me to Germany. And we've invested in some 25 companies, many of them in media business. We have a fund in South Africa. I think we are the only venture capital fund in the world that operates in South Africa, which is a great opportunity. I can talk a little bit about it because they do a lot of media investments. And most of our companies are Germans. And I can tell you, without insulting any of my German friends here, that Germany is still far behind Israel when it comes to media investments. They're very good in copycats. Have you heard about the Samver brothers, Lukash and some other guys? They just copy you guys, or the Israeli guys, or the American guys that do Groupons and eBays and Amazons and many other companies in a very efficient way, like the Germans know. Like the Japanese did to the Germans maybe some years ago. But I'm trying to be more original. We invest in original German technologies, and we've done pretty well so far. So thank you for inviting me here to see my daughter. That's why I'm here. She's a soldier in the army, and we live in Germany. So
that's why I moved to New York to do original investing. We don't do the copycats. Just
and all that story to wake you up, because I know it's a very tough hour. So cheer up.
All right.
All right. So my name is Gadi Tirosh. About 7 years ago, I got a call from a gentleman called Eran Margalit. How many in the audience know Eran Margalit? All right. That's how it works. In any case, JVP stands for Jerusalem Venture Partner. We're actually, I think, the only venture company in Jerusalem itself. And what we decided to invest in about 6 or 7 years ago is to focus primarily on media and media technology investments, and that's the area that I focus on. So this includes investments in gaming, in video, in internet, obviously, and other web applications. Before joining JVP, I was part of NDS, a company we started in Jerusalem again. So that's, I guess, a recurring theme with me. And we created a company in the digital TV space, and which ended up being a very significant company. After doing that for 9 years, I joined the other side of the business and joined JVP as a partner.
Thanks. Niall?
Okay, my name is Niall Maloney. I work with Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt, which would be, we're the largest K-12 publisher, educational publisher in the United States. We've got 52% market share. Our two main competitors in the US would be Pearson and McGraw-Hill. Predominantly, on most of our business right now, 90% plus is in the United States, but we're putting a huge emphasis in international growth. I'm, being invited here by the guys from Landmark. It's my second year here. Last year, for example, we actually met with two very interesting companies, one of which we ended up acquiring. The second one we've a partnership with. I'm fascinated to come here because I think the technologies that you can find in Israel are. I'm Irish and I work in Ireland, and our innovation and hub is actually based in Ireland. But I think even as an Irish person who we within the EU we consider ourselves probably the innovators. But when you come here, it's amazing. Just they're so far advanced than we like to believe we are. So my role here is really to try and find innovative technology primarily, because as a publisher, and that's, I presume this discussion we're going to talk about it's changing even from last year. It's some of the announcements like Apple a couple of weeks ago. Our world is changing, and as a leader, we can sit there and we can watch it happen, or we can participate. And that's we've a new CEO in place who comes from Microsoft. And her role is really to take that and embrace technology, look at where it's going, and look at where our traditional print business is going to be in 3 to 5 years' time. Because right now, if we stay static, our business is going to shrink year on year.
I want to follow up on that because I think it's a good way to start this discussion. How is your company trying to stay up with the times and to adapt in such a way so you don't become extinct? Or is, even though you want to wear your VC hat here, it would be helpful if you could talk about Bertelsmann's dealings with that as well.
So what's the question again? How are we going to survive in this?
Come on, Urs. How are you? How is Bertelsmann dealing with the trend towards digital?
I think they're doing pretty well. If you look at book publishing, Random House is the largest producer of ebooks. So they went digital. I mean, if people want to read good stories, it doesn't necessarily matter in which form kind of the distribution happens. Sure, there are some categories like kids' books or something where you want a real enhanced, very interactive books, and I think there I think the truth is those are still too expensive and doesn't scale the same way to produce a lot of those. So there's still room for improvement, and I think that's, for example, one of the trends I see, that if anyone who can help scale that process, that's interesting. And if I look at the TV side of our business, I mean RTL, the shows, something like American Idol, people still want to watch, and they do video on demand, they do communities, they even have loyalty program on their social side for X Factor. So they do all of these things. Are they always bleeding edge? I actually don't think so. And that's actually a good thing. I mean, very often they're the market leader and they don't necessarily want to try everything out as the first person to use it. But I think generally, if you look at the portion of our revenues that is already coming from digital or related to digital, it's significant enough to be meaningful. So I don't think we're here to die in the next couple of years.
Do you view what you're doing when you wear your VC hat as a way to continue the R&D in that space?
That's one of the reasons why we're set up. And as you know, and even the company we both are involved in, the ad server company, after we made an investment, after some time, Bertelsmann became a customer. So whenever we make an investment, we hope that 1-2 years down the road, we always want to be 1 year ahead of our operating units, that there's some relationship forming out of that.
Niall, what about?
Eran wanted to say something
I wanted to
nasty.
say
I already
something
saw this. I already saw it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he does know me for some years, and I really want to say something nasty because he wants to be provocative, right? You can't ask this kind of question in a company like Axel Springer, old media sitting on piles of cash from these Random House and other publishing houses, because they don't invent anything, they don't lead any technology innovation. They just buy companies with old money. So old media money is used to buy new tech companies like this.
And so now tell an entrepreneur how that is a bad thing, that they get bought at some time. I'm not so sure you're really scaring anyone. I mean,
No, let's face it, you are not a technology leader, you're a technology follower. Sure. Same applies for us. We look for brilliant people to tell us what's the new trends, because we don't define or decide about that kind of things. We are in the food chain, so one step before selling a company to these guys, we have to find those new trends in the market.
It's the pharma model, which I think is next door.
So we can tell you what we observe, what we see, but I don't think we can tell you what's going to happen because we don't know ourselves.
Eran, but let's be a bit more radical. Actually, our business is to invest in companies that eventually would ruin those guys.
Exactly.
All right, and that's how we look at our investment. And I guess if we inflict enough pain on you guys, eventually you're going to buy some of those companies. But in some cases, they just might change the landscape so dramatically that some of the old business model and the old ways of publishing and distributing content are just becoming irrelevant.
Completely obsolete, right? The old ways of doing it.
Can they be obsolete? Again, over a longer period of time, yes, they do become obsolete. I think we all kind of actors within this show, and it looks like it takes forever for things to actually change. But over time, they do change. So, we're looking at things like over the top and how they're going to eventually change the distribution of video and other stuff, and whether there's going to be room for cable companies. So, eventually it will happen. People thought it's going to happen a few years ago, but it seems like, this year and maybe in the next couple of years, it's really when it's all coming together. And eventually, yes, having kind of paying an ongoing subscription to your cable company just to get bits flying down your tube to serve your video is not going to be the main way of consuming this content. Yeah.
What about just reading? I mean,
yeah, but firstly, I would say that it's our business to find the companies before you do, right? So that's what we're here to do as well. But I think if I talk about the K-12 market or the educational market, one of the big factors that we see, look, things are going to go digital at some point, whether it's now, it's 3 years or 20 years time, because the younger generation, that's the medium they've grown up with. We grew up with a traditional textbook isn't going to disappear. And there's certain markets like in Korea, they're talking about that everything has to be digitized by 2014. Fine, but from an education perspective, but they're still talking about the print media. But I think but as a publisher, one of the areas that we see is, so we're spending a lot more, we still have the content, and we believe the pedagogy behind the content is important, and the quality of content. But one of the important, a huge growth sector for us in the last 3 years is professional development, right? Around teacher training, around using technology in the classroom, around accountability. So when we deal with ministries of education, it's about assessment. So using the technology and the material behind it, and what technology brings. It brings accountability and which is key. So when we're going in and we're selling, big implementations, when we go in with partners, whether it be IBM, Microsoft, whoever, and you go in, it's being able to show that something is accountable and that there actually is progress and data that can back up why a ministry has made an investment. And I think, that's where, from our perspective, where our revenue growth is coming from right now.
What about Apple's foray into the education space?
It's good for us, right? In the sense that, and Apple being the greatest marketeers in the world, so they announced that they're going to have textbooks that, we sell for $70, that they're going to sell them for $15. We've embraced that because that's an annual fee. We sell our textbook, a one-off textbook, for $70, but the next acquisition isn't for another 7 years. so actually we're actually making more money out of this than we are if we stay with a traditional textbook. But, Apple have perceived it in such a way that they've brought the price of a textbook down from $70 to $14, or $15. What they've actually done is they've created annuity revenue for us.
How do you, or is Niall both, how do you continue to evolve to deal with the fact that people can now go into their local library and download books? It's less of an e-reader focus, it's less of an Amazon Kindle buying the books focus. How do you deal with that?
Well, if I can just quickly on creating content or quality content is...
It's difficult to hear without the monitor, so the question itself.
Speak slowly, and maybe somebody will ask the question from here, and then it'll be easier.
Yeah, because we hear it from the back.
From the side, differently.
Oh, okay. All right. Did you hear?
The question.
Yeah, I heard.
So,
do you hear everything and you understand everything? We don't. Okay. Actually, we don't. Okay.
all right.
That's okay.
But that's a good chance to say whatever we want.
It's very good. It's a very good chance.
Pretend.
But I can still maybe jump on the last comment. I mean, high quality content is still, people want to see that. Even if you look at YouTube is now giving out $100 million to producers for quality content, because it's much easier to monetize, high quality video content compared to dancing cats and drunken cats and dogs and stuff like that. So it's I think the discussion we had here, yes, there are a lot of startups, and very often it's about a platform or technology, but still they need very often good quality content to be transported using that platform or something. So I think people will still want good TV programming, whether it's provided in a linear fashion on a TV or on a mobile device, or whether the recommendation to watch that piece of content came through a social graph or not. There's still, you still need the content. So I think we're here to stay.
You're right in how you're phrasing it, because you're already showing Bertelsmann's view towards how you're staying current with things and what the trend is towards where you're moving next. And I know from the mobile company that we work on together. You as well?
Yeah, we're working with mobile companies around the world, and Asia is a huge growth market for us, and what they're doing with content and how they're moving ahead, and even countries in Africa, they're moving. They never had, in lots of cases, traditional high quality print material, so they're moving straight to the next level, and it's we've got to look the days though of a traditional publisher sitting back and assuming that your revenue is going to be there of changing. I think high quality content and how material is developed and the process of project managing whether it be textbooks or a trade publication, high quality publishing isn't going to change. The deliverable mechanism may change.
I must say that, as a parent to 4 boys, I still find it extremely difficult why I need to purchase textbooks every year. It just, unbelievable that in 2012, we're still doing this stuff and we're still paying those costs instead of just, giving tablets to all of our kids and everybody in the industry should be happy about it. You guys should actually sponsor this kind of initiative, I guess.
Agreed, and in some cases we are working at top. But one of the big issues you got to understand is that it is changing. But and that's why I go back to professional development around teacher training. Right, one of our big issues we would love to, firstly. We're a private company and we're driven by revenues. It'd be far more profitable for us to move to that model tomorrow, right? But one of the things is around the world, the teaching organization, it doesn't matter what country, majority of them are unionized, so there's a huge, learning process that we need to go through to enable and educate. But also, it's not about content, right? So a teacher may be an excellent teacher, but a teacher developing a program or a course may not be the best person to do it. So that that's why we pay that's why we as publishers pay educational experts to develop material, because they're doing it and they're working in line with the Ministry of Education. Education is every country. It's one of the best ways to keep a culture going, right? Education is not global, right? Education is by country by country. I come from Ireland. We've got on an island of 5 million people, we've got 2 educational systems, right? We've got a British system and an Irish system, and that will remain. So
well, at least you control your education systems, which is not necessarily the case here. We have maybe 4 or 5 different streams.
Yeah, but
not all of them are controlled.
Okay, good.
How do you think the whole crowdsourcing wave is shaping content and publishing?
Give it to them. I think that
A moment of silence.
publishing companies already said high quality is, easier to monetize. So let those two take a step at it.
Well, I can give you at least one example. We have a company that is called Butterfly that is doing aggregation of content from thousands, hundreds of thousands of sources. Could be news about a celebrity wearing a certain earrings for a party, and BBC News about uprising in Syria. But all this combined content is all delivered to a Facebook platform, because for us, Facebook is more or less everything today in the internet. Therefore, we try to combine crowdsourcing kind of content and very official content from sources like BBC, CNN, and others, and make an interactive discussion on specific subjects. For example, we have a Facebook page on Jordan or Palestine or a certain type of sports, which I'm interested in, enduro, motorcycle racing in Africa. And you can see how this makes this boring news much more interesting while it's combined with interaction between users, personal news, official news, and all together, according to a special subject, create something much more vivid and interesting for the user. So this is how we use crowdsourcing, not as a standalone source, but combined with interactive usability by different users, according to a specific topic with the normal consumption of news. So all this together in a very simplified way is a very way to monetize, by the way, content in the internet, if this was going to be your next question, just in case.
Maybe to give you another example of a company that used crowdsourcing and actually is a good bridge between I would say, the old media publishing conglomerates and kind of the new world. It's a company in our portfolio called AnyClip. That what they did, they licensed huge libraries of video content from the major studios. So all that is done legally, non-piracy and so on, actually provide a revenue stream to the studios. And what we do out of those huge libraries, we actually cut them automatically into video clips that has certain themes or certain objects in them. So we do all that automatically and provide that to the audience for different kind of applications, whether it's trivia games or just search and so on. But then where crowdsourcing comes into play, together with the player of those video clips, you have the ability as a user to actually mark your own in and outs, cut your own clips and kind of share them. And what we find out that this created a huge shift in the tagging being done much more effectively by the crowd and actually much better distribution of those video clips when somebody's actually cutting their clips. So I guess there is room for crowdsourcing, and actually there are some examples where it can live together with the traditional media companies.
And it shifts towards the user-generated aspect of things also. When you're talking crowdsourcing on a higher level, you can get down to crowdsourcing user-generated content on a lower level as well, which is also, I would think, monetizable. It adds an element of voyeurism to the whole thing.
So I think we all had our hopes regarding user-generated content maybe, 5-6 years ago, and I think we all came to believe that at the end of the day, quality content requires investment. So I think the hybrid model we find with AnyClip, which is, it's high-quality content, and the users contribute their editing capabilities, if you wish, on it, is a good triage. But personally, I'm not a big believer that user-generated content can really create kind of content that other users want to watch on an ongoing basis and pay for it.
Do you all agree with that?
Yeah, I'd agree.
I have to. No, just... to be honest, no, I think there's some really good content from, good vloggers and, some semi-professional pieces. And even if you look at, so I think there's a lot of good content out there, but, professionally produced, expensive content that, in HD and all those things, it still will be here and people want to consume that content.
I saw a company back in New York that was pitching at one of my pitch events, and they had, it was American Idol user-generated, just a continuous stream of I don't even know what to call it, entertainment. I'm going to use that word loosely. It was like watching a train wreck, but people couldn't couldn't stop watching it. And I guess I want to direct the question to the VCs. Is that something that you would invest in, a company like that? Or do you believe the trend for user-generated content is towards the higher end where it's monetizable? Or maybe it's no user-generated?
Yeah, absolutely. First, I want to ask our audience to come up with a very good joke or a story in order not to lose more people, because I'm afraid we're not interesting enough. I saw some people going out and getting nervous about it. I have a good joke, but I keep it to the end, so you can stay with me.
It's not your fault, Eran.
Okay, they come back with, I hope with an espresso, because I need one. And regarding crowdsourcing, that's what the question, right?
And user-generated.
In user-generated, yeah, I think this is still one of the biggest opportunities in the internet, still to come, because I see the power of the people anywhere, worldwide, to help me sort out a problem I have at the moment. We have a company, we have a few companies like that worldwide that you can use it in a very simplified way, like Q&A. What is the best hummus restaurant in Jaffa? In case, and somebody out there will know the answer, and he gives it to me instantly. By the way, and I'm willing to pay for it, 25 cents or something. That's what our company is doing. It works very well. But there are different examples. For example, I heard a brilliant professor recently in Munich, in the DLD conference, and he decided to make a trial, to do a test. It's okay, it's more back into the education issue we had before, but it's so interesting, you have to hear it. It's really incredible. The guy was teaching the highest level of computer science in Stanford. He had only the top 100 people in all of the US enrolling to his class every year, and nobody got 100. It was so difficult, the average grade was 75, 80, so he decided one semester to open up his class to whoever wants to listen to it online using Skype, and he had 120,000 students overnight, suddenly, from all over the world, Bangladesh, India, China, Israel, Africa, and so on. At the end of the course, after one semester, he did the same exam again, and 100 people got 100 at the exam. First time ever that anyone at all got a full grade for this exam. And there were people from many different places, and he decided after this experiment to resign from normal teaching and do only offline teaching, because then he could get the top 100 worldwide, not only the top 100 of California to his class, because this is what he's interested in. And this is an amazing guy, the professor, German professor working in Stanford. This is to show you the power of the crowd, because maybe the most genius next Einstein is living somewhere in a small village in Nepal, but you don't know about him unless you start using this power of internet. Still to be explored. It's a beautiful opportunity in education and news, in all media sectors. And we are waiting for the right people to make a company out of it.
But tying that to your question, if you look at, we have a professor who is teaching at Stanford, a tenured professor. So is that user-generated or is that high-quality content? I'm sure the guy would qualify as being
This
an
is exactly
expert.
the combination, because it's a highly paid professor, but very open, freely.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's marvelous what he did.
You remember the guy, right?
Yeah, sure. So
And is it a business model that you would invest in?
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Khan Academy is an example that comes to mind there. And so, I mean, we would look at all those things, but I mean, the example you gave earlier about people, still watching it because they see so much train wreck after, I'm not sure whether I would invest in that. I mean, that's one of the problems Chatroulette had at some degree. There was a little too much skin color on the screen most of the time, or at least enough times to make this not necessarily a VC investment.
Let's follow that investment theme. So if you had a bet on something in the content publishing space for 2012, what would it be? What would you put your money behind?
I think I would come back to something I said at the beginning. I still think platforms that enable publishers to create this kind of hybrid content, which is, text, some videos, maybe some easy interactivity, is still too complicated to do. There are startups out there that want to do that. I mean, an Inkling is a very nice platform, or you have the Edivis that is doing, so semi-long form content. So there are some interesting companies there, and that's definitely something I would look at, because that enables a pain point, and it helps scaling, these interactive, nice pieces of content that everybody wants to consume.
Horace, can you also describe a company that you backed in 2011 that you view as a trend-setting company too?
We did in 2011. I did 2 deals. I think the whole group, our fund, invested in 11 new companies. So I'll talk about some of them. So one would be CrowdTwist. I would consider that a next generation loyalty. So what they do is they enable companies to run loyalty programs very easy via API, and they range from the old school loyalty. You get a point per dollar you spend, like in an e-commerce setting. But also you get points for tweeting, for checking in, for referring friends and stuff. So they actually combine both. And that is something that now even big TV brands started to use. So X Factor is one of the first clients, because it's, as a content producer, we're typically very far away from knowing what the real end audience is that's going to use it. So, this is a new way of understanding more what they're doing, what they want, and you can use big data is a big theme, so you can use all that data to make your content even better. That's one of the investments I did.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Eran.
My biggest passion today is Africa. As you know, we have a venture capital fund over there, and what I see is incredible. It's incredible, really. In my daughter's class in high school, 10 out of 12 children have iPhone 4S. My poor daughter only has iPhone 4. So, okay, this is Berlin private school.
You have to exit something.
Okay. Berlin. But I travel every 3 months to South Africa, and there are, in South Africa alone, 140 million people, and out of these 140 million, 100 people are coming out of poverty. And they want to have mobile devices, they want to have smartphones, they want to have internet connection, and they get it. Slowly but surely, they all get iPhones, not iPhones. BlackBerry is a big hit over there, but now they're getting mobile phones, internet connection, and they want social games. They want Facebook page. They want a lot of applications, and the biggest challenge, and there are hundreds of millions of kids like that worldwide, also in China, India, and some other developing countries. And I think the biggest opportunity is not the creme de la creme European countries where we operate, but more in the third world countries where people want cheap, small, easy to operate devices with the same applications that bring them all this crowdsourcing and e-learning applications and social games to their mobile device. So this is my biggest passion at the moment. We invest in companies that deliver simple applications to those new mobile phone users. By the way, they skip completely the PC and laptop. They go directly from no connection to internet mobile connection. So this is, again, a big challenge, but the biggest opportunity for business investors as well as for us, venture capitalists.
Thank you. Gadi.
So I guess, for me, the biggest passion is really what I indicated before, is looking at this whole transformation to over the top, which I see as a way of content producers meeting their audience without any middlemen. And I think that's going to create a tremendous shift on how media business is done and how content is being evolved, because by not having any middlemen in the middle, you also get feedback from the user, and you can change your content and be much more responsive to your audience. We made one investment in that space in 2011 in a company called Playcast that, we all know about, music delivered from the cloud, video delivered from the cloud, through things like YouTube. So kind of the next frontier is applications, and the most challenging application is games delivered through the cloud, and that's what Playcast is doing. But I continue to look at interesting company in that space that solve particular problems or introduce new ways of monetizing content for over-the-top content.
Thanks. You want to?
Yeah, well, there's numerous opportunities, but to pick a different one, because I agree with all of what's said, but another opportunity, and I come back to it, I mentioned earlier, is around professional development in education and teacher training, whether it be college, there are ways, and there has to be ways, and there has to be technologies out there that can simplify ICT training in a classroom, because it's one of the biggest inhibitors to what we've talked about is getting digital content, getting quality content to the end user, is because the people who've got to manage the forum or control, whether it be teachers or university lecturers and so on, they're not confident enough to change what they've done for 15, 20, 30 years. And it's, if we can come up with some methodology or method to give them the confidence that, to use what is an exciting medium. No one's disagreeing with it, that it makes huge differences and advantages to move away from traditional print. I'm not saying it's going to disappear, traditional print, but blended learning is the way of the future. And I think if we can come up with ways around teacher training, professional development, I think there's huge opportunities in that in the next 2 to 3 years.
Neil, you have to leave enough time for Eran to tell his good joke.
Oh, right, yeah.
I want to follow up on one thing with you, and we're at zero, so I'm going to do this real quick. Do you think, and this is also for the venture folks, do you think that then education is going to become the next flavor of the month of the venture community? Real quick.
Absolutely, yes. Education is, I fully agree, is a huge opportunity for us, for startup entrepreneurs. For some reason, it's not sexy enough, so people are not really getting into it. They don't see the...
It's very hard to fund.
We did a couple of education investments, so I think education is a good topic. It's not the easiest topic, because very often in many countries it's highly regulated, and that's something that generally VCs don't like too much. If someone else whose processes for coming to a decision you don't necessarily understand, but generally I still see a lot of education deal flow, and we do invest there, and it's.
Yeah, and we can also see that many people take their children out of public schools, put them in private schools, and it is the biggest household expenditures. Before anything else, before food, before even a car, it's education in an average household. So this is still a huge opportunity, and people, I see my 3 teenagers, they all work online to find better education because they don't find it at school. They learn physics on YouTube, for example, and all this creates a big buzz in the industry, and now I think it's going to come very soon.
So, yeah, in one sentence, we'd love to do investments in education. I think we're all scared from the bureaucracy that is involved in that. One way of actually cracking it is, in certain countries where there are government initiatives to invest in new initiatives like that, and that's something we would love to join, definitely in this country and potentially in others.
Thank you. You were a wonderful panel. Thanks so much, and thank you to the audience. It's great.